In this episode of Weekly Poker Hand, we're taking a look at a wild spot played by Mariano and Action Dan.
Feels like Mariano is nutting here.
Two battling, fighting, competitive poker players.
And I mean, like, what is this hand? Nut up, Mariano.
We are playing this bounty game. Long story short, if Mariano wins this pot, he gets $1,000. Sure, it's good, but when you're playing $44,000 deep, it's not all that substantial.
Mariano.
All in.
Oh my gosh.
1600.
We got a mirror matchup here. Ace, queen, ace, queen. As you can see, ace-4, a much better hand than ace-queen. It's favored here.
6200.
And queen-10, even better than ace-queen. And why don't those numbers add up to 100%, you ask? That's because the equity of ace-queens splitting the pot does not count as winning. And that's why the percentages are low, and that's why sometimes you get these weird readings. Mariano, 5 betting. It's a min-click 5 bet. Can Rampage dig deep and find this? He has the best hand. Don't let those percentages fool you. He has the best hand by a long shot here, but it's hard to know that. Pull the trigger, Rampage. Make a night of it. There is so much dead money in the middle of this pot, about 20,000 in there.
About a year and a half. Yeah, a year and a half.
Keep at it, man. You're improving a lot.
I appreciate that. That really means a lot.
Rampage.
A lot of you, brother.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it did.
All the experiences
I
in
watched too much.
poker,
You might,
all coming to a head here, and he just lets
got a
it
good
go.
sense of the
So does
game.
Patrick.
What is it?
13,000.
But Dan will not go down that easily. I mean, it's only 6,800 more for Dan,
I got 8.
but this feels nutted. Feels like Mariano is nutting here. Okay, sorry, that came out way wrong.
In this hand, Lexo limps the hijack seat. Mariano raises it up with ace-4 of spades from the cutoff to $400. Rampage Poker, you all know him. He gets in there, he battles. He makes it 1,600 on the button with ace-queen offsuit. Patrick, in the small blind, cold calls with ace-queen offsuit. I probably would have just put in the 4-bet and used it as a bluff, but he decides to call. And then Action Dan, true to his name, makes it 6,200 with queen 10 of diamonds. Look, I'm all for bluffing. I like bluffing. Suited high cards are pretty good for bluffing, but I think in this spot you really want to have an ace. I think a lot of your bluffs are going to want to come from suited aces and suited kings, or maybe hands like ace, queen offsuit. I think queen 10 suited is not quite there, but hey, if you want to give some action, it's a pretty good hand to do it with. Mariano, he got the memo. He has the ace in his hand. He bumps it up again, 13,000. Told you that $1,000 bounty is not that relevant. He makes it 13,000. Okay, now we're playing for big money. We are playing, like I said, quite deep stacked. Over 1,000 big blinds to start. Something like that. Rampage now. Cannot summon the all-in. He folds. Patrick, also with ace-queen, cannot summon the all-in. He folds, and we go to the flop. Mariano has 31,000 in a stack. That's the effective stack. The pot's already 22,000. Let's see how this one plays out.
Erase that from your memory. Mariano. No nuts.
Flop comes Jack of Hearts, Jack of Clubs, 3 of Diamonds. Mariano has Ace High. Action Dan has Queen High. That's not going to stop him, though. Action Dan checks from the big blind. Mariano, in the cutoff, bets 7,400, which is probably what he would do with his entire range in this scenario. And Action Dan, with the backdoors, decides to call. I think even with the backdoors from out of position, it's probably okay to fold immediately in this scenario. But I get why he would call, right? Pot odds, backdoor equity, maybe he thinks Mariano will give up on various turns and rivers. And if that's the case, stick around and try to steal the pot. It is worth noting, when you are playing bounty games or the stand-up game or the 7-2 game or the Jack-4 game or the 10-2 game or whatever you're playing that induces lots and lots and lots of additional action, you have to be a little bit more careful betting with your entire range in scenarios where you do have far more combinations of bluffs than normal. That said, given this bounty, the $1,000 bounty in this particular pot's not that relevant at all, I think ranges should be kind of normal in general in Mariano's spot. So he can probably get away with betting this ace-4, but if he does have a whole lot of trash in his range for whatever reason, then he has to be far more cautious. Let's go to the turn.
Mariano with the best hand. I feel like he has to do something here. It's Action Dan, you just never know where you are. Do you need to bluff? Do you need to nut? Nut up, Mariano. And even when Action Dan checks, it still makes his opponents feel like they're walking on a tightrope. Now, against most any player, this hand is just over. But against Action Dan, he's gonna make a call. It felt like a fold or shove spot, and he makes a call.
The turn is the 6 of spades. Action Dan checks. Mariano, still not afraid. He goes for an 11,000 bet into the 44,000 pot out of his $36,000 stack. He is going for it. Action Dan must think he has a read on Mariano because he decides to call with only Queen High. Either he has a heck of a read or he has really, really, really nasty intentions going to the river. I mean, look, I think in reality, Action Dan probably should have just folded pre-flop. Maybe he can call the flop. But on the turn, with no hope, no future, you just got to let it go. He calls, though. Let's go to the river.
Is he planning to shove any river?
Check.
Well, I mean, it's just a check. I mean, like, what is this hand? Mariano
All in.
is going to bluff with the best hand.
The river is another 3, pairing the board. Action Dan checks. Mariano rips it all in with the ace high for 25,000. What I want to know is, do you think he's value betting or bluffing? Let me know in the comment section down below, and then we're going to see if Action Dan decides to give maximum action with only Queen High.
Well,
Action Dan could have done it himself.
could be the
No.
quickest all time.
Stop. Don't.
Ace.
Oh my
Ace
gosh.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Oh my gosh.
Good read, wrong.
Call of the night. I don't care that he was wrong. What a legend.
Action Dan makes the call. He stuck with the read. He made a read that Mariano was getting after it, and he was not afraid to stick with it. Interestingly enough, this call may actually be okay, especially if Mariano's range contains far too many bluffs, like 10-9, 9-8, 8-7, all of those types of hands. But does it? Is Mariano really just going to chunk in 45,000 bucks with nothing pre-flop and on the flop and on the turn and on the river? I don't know. You got to have a good read. And maybe Action Dan did / thinks he did. Maybe he thought Mariano was bluffing. And to be fair, I think Mariano did think he was bluffing. But this time it didn't work out. Tough luck for Action Dan. I'll talk to you next time.